welcome to the third episode here, Earth and Spirit Medicine, Ancient Healing Wisdom. And I guess I don't need to speak so loud. The only voice here for a second here. Hi, Alan.
Hi.
So yeah, we're here on this third episode, and finally we're not in my backyard. We got to this little location. You can hear these wild turkeys around us. Back up into the Mapleton area, but we're kind of just hiding out in a way. And so the prayer is that we're not disturbed. The prayer is that we can discuss some topics and have it be really effective. We've got a very small, low-key fire here. And we want to assist. And what I mean by that is that it's kind of that thing where there's more than one mind, more than one brain kind of going on, and you connect. You kind of get a synergistic energy that is like a momentum. And we're really striving to create this momentum. It's, I guess you could say, educational, if you will. So we spoke about right here, right now last time, and I don't want to go into so much detail every time that these podcasts are long. And also I want to be able to have as much powerful, effective material, content in every podcast that you can apply immediately and make adjustments in your life that are good, that really help you to feel better inside. And that was kind of what I was emphasizing in that last episode, was what's that impact, what's that influence of our thoughts onto our systems, our body, us, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. What are our thoughts on that? How do our thoughts influence, impact, really cause? And where do all the chemicals go? So you hear, maybe you've read book stories, heard people say something like, hey, the liver stores anger, the liver stores, well, that's good. What I want to say is, hey, the liver is a conglomerate of cellular activity, just like every other organ, and all these cells in the entire body make up me, Winfield, or you, or whoever you are, Alan. So when I look at it like that, it's one cooperative system, made up into little pieces that have functionality, if you will, something like that. And so to me, and it was when I was, after I quit drinking, when I was 28, I finally decided to quit drinking. It was destroying everything. Well, I was, through the use of that. So, made some adjustments. And then this part where the way that I thought, and the way that I acted, the way that I did all my life, and I was kind of sorry to myself. I was like, hey, liver, sorry about all that. Hey, all you cells in my body, sorry about all that. Let's make use of what we have, and let's get better. Let's make this even more. Let's multiply. Let's effectively unify and make the best version possible that I can. And what I found out along the way is that it's like a continuum of increase. So in that place where it's like, hey, sorry, liver, for all that drink and everything. So when you hear or have read or things about, hey, the liver stores anger, things like that, what it really does is detoxify every single chemical. Every chemical has to go through the liver and find its way. Now, when we're not resolving things, then yes, those influences from our thoughts get cataloged, if you will, and the liver gets overloaded, other organs get overloaded. There begins to be places of weakness that show up, and we have pain associated to that because it's trying to go somewhere and find how to resolve itself. And so it's so imperative to learn how to have this immediate resolve, this immediate way. So when I'm saying, hey, can you change your thinking can you go from rage to happiness in just a nanosecond? A heartbeat is what I said. Yeah. If you can go from happiness to rage in a nanosecond, Judas Priest, think about that. Think when you've been feeling so good, everything's going so good, and then all of a sudden you're just out of whack. And usually what comes with that is, oh, he makes me so mad, or something along those lines, where we were saying before, don't get in the blame game. So that's kind of a catch-up little intro there, and it kind of leaves us thinking about how much responsibility, or if I have that ability to dialogue differently and create feelings of power, create thoughts that empower everything about my life. Thinking about the thoughts that are going to be required in order to get certain results. What would I have to think in order to? What would I have to think in order to? So in order to be well, in order to be happy, in order to have effective relationships, in order to feel peace, what must I think? What do you think about that so far?
Yeah, it's almost kind of, when I think about that, like especially if you feel so good on a drive to a certain location, and you get out, and it could be a gas station, could be home, it could be work, and then just that one, maybe somebody else is having a rough day, but the power of someone else's influence, words, are very powerful if we allow them to be. So for me anyways, the immediate reminder of love to me, love,
keep going.
Yeah, love. And it's almost sometimes when I think, the level of respect, but sometimes I find myself saying, oh, well, gosh dang, all I want is respect back. I gave respect to them, shouldn't I get it back? And then, but also, I guess some people say take the high road and, just be respectful and be loving no matter what. But every time that I feel as if I do that, it may not be in the moment, but maybe the next day or something. Every time it has been that individual, let's just say them, so you'll see them again. At least personally for me, it's always been the return of, hey, sorry about yesterday, thank you. So I've said this, I'll try to be quick on this example here, but the guy at the coffee shop, Juice and Java, I went and there was a barista and she was cleaning, it was slow. And so she had the clock in and clock out little timesheet folder things, and she was cleaning that, and she took it apart and she was having a hard time putting it back together. And she said, oh, Alan, can you help me? I cannot figure this out. And there's this other individual that was sitting at a table, and he came and he kind of was watching me, and I tried to put this thing back together, and I was like, I couldn't figure it out at all. And then I forget the guy's name, but he stands up, she's like, oh, we can't figure this out. And then he just like 2 moves, just boom, boom, put it together. And we were both laughing. She said, oh, you're so amazing. And then he's looking at me and he's like, well, you can't be a effing idiot. To me.
I remember.
Yeah. And I remember something like that, it can spark that rage, right? It can be this huge argument that can just burst out. And I just laughed in the moment. And I said, well, you got me there, and I left. But on the drive home is when I was getting upset and bothered by the energy of that. But then Spirit reminded me, why don't you say a prayer for him instead? So going back to love. And so I did that. Couple days pass, I go back to Juice and Java, and there's a line now, and I see there's a window, and I can see the guy walking in. I'll be like, this is interesting. So he is behind me, doesn't say anything, but then when I get up to order my drink, he says, hey, I'm gonna buy this guy his drink. That was his way of saying, hey.
So on the other side of the spectrum, what are you left with from someone? Like from someone saying a comment that is very, I guess we could say, stimulating towards a combative or a defensive. Like, you don't have to be at the coffee shop after he fixed it. Or this gentleman that offered, and the stimulus was different. It was softer. It was well received. So like the opposite spectrum, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, you know, it kind of goes back to that respect of, you know, you send love, you will get it back. And yeah, so for me, that's just been on that spectrum of people's energies, and sometimes it having to overcome the negative, the darkness of trying to infiltrate in my life and other people's lives, to realize that it is that love and light in that position to overcome that. But it's our choice to do that. It's our choice. So
yeah, it's always our choice, and that's what's so beautiful about this. And yet we really struggle with this often, you know. So it's almost like, hey, what? I'm not against words like love. I'm not against words like happy and things. I'm through these podcasts, though, I'm really wanting to kind of eliminate those, because there seems to be a habitual way of thinking that if we shift to another word, that we're going to be shifting completely into a way of being. Now, when someone says, well, just try and love them more, so then we get busy thinking about that. But when something has been spoken to us or done, or we've perceived it as coming against us, and then how long after that? So here you are, you're driving home after that guy said that. How many days go by? You know, we talked about how long does it take to make some pottery? About a week. Well, how long do we let those kind of thoughts trickle in that mind, creating all those chemicals? Remember, okay, this is important. It's so important. This is why I don't want to get caught up in the emotions or the feelings. I want to get to what is the dialogue that will get you to the feeling, yes, but not just like the word of the feeling, okay? Not just an emotion that seems to be better. It's literally training yourself to embark upon this process of attracting divine intelligence, the unseen, okay? When you image the pottery and then you go about it, the unseen, okay? What are all the possibilities? Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Oh, I'm going to live no matter what, okay? Whatever in between all of that. And so when someone comes against us as perceived, and we are allowing this to go on and on and on, it's like watching the news over and 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 over. And you know what? This is where over time people begin to, let's say, they call it losing their mind, losing their way, all right? This is when I say, hey, I've seen more lost people in society than I ever did out in raw wilderness, because people get lost inside of themselves. They don't know their own terrain. They don't know how to. See, we're out here right now. This is why I wanted to come out here. Judas Priest, earth and spirit medicine, ancient healing wisdom, ancient. You know, that's like this time-tested, long time, ancient, goes back. How long can you think back? But what is the best about that? When you put these three words together, ancient, long time ago, time-tested up to now, plus more, and then healing. What is it that is from that long time ago that is healing? And what is it about that long time ago healing stuff that we can have as wisdom? And not just to know it, but see, when they say that wisdom is knowledge rightly applied, well, you know, we get caught in all these statements, all these verbiages. What is the proper way is to effectively speak to yourself in a manner that gets you that first step towards the result that you want. We can't get stuck in this sick, toxic dialogue. Then you compile that, okay? So say you don't resolve that one about that guy, say, for, you know, maybe you don't even know how. So it's just going on. And then later on, you go home, and maybe you're married and you have an argument or a bad discussion, a fight, you know, with your spouse, and then that's added in there. And then where do you get the resolve? I'm sorry. No, she did that. No, he did that. Where does anybody say I'm sorry? So I'm thankful that, you know, it's like, hey, I'm sorry. When you're talking talking about that a minute ago. But what's more in that? What's really going on? Okay, so guess what? Let's just shortcut this. I want to feel good. I like feeling good. I had a lot of crappy feelings through my life. I felt a lot of things I never wanted to feel. Oh my gosh, tons of them. And I'm sure that you have too. And in all that, feeling things you don't want to feel, experiencing things you don't want to experience. So I had to just kind of figure out, hey, you know, it's like Schopenhauer said, if you do any studying of what we might call philosophers, thoughtful people that are trying to dialogue and make sense of the world themselves, and then putting it out there in statements and writings that may assist, kind of the same thing we're doing in a different format, if you will, okay? So these philosophers, so Schopenhauer says, hey, if you embark upon a swimming journey, so if you know you're going to go to a public place and you want to go swimming, and you go there, and somebody splashes water in your face, and you get pissed off about it. Okay, you must know that. What are the possibilities of me embarking upon this journey to go swimming? Is it possible in a public place that I might get splashed in my face with water? Oh my gosh, yeah, you might do it yourself. Okay, and so when we take a look at, we have to see, this is what we're saying about thinking 7 generations ahead. Judas Priest, people can't even think a few seconds ahead. And I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm just trying to break through that and say, when we begin to think present, right here, right now, when we begin to associate ourselves to earth and spirit, the unseen, and we can take, and what I was saying is grasping that divine intelligence, we actually can see it. It's, yeah, invisible, but you can begin to just see it. And you can grasp this God power, okay, this Father Spirit. You know, Mother Earth, Father Spirit. Know Mother Earth, know Father Spirit, know yourself. So see, this is how I came to know me. So, got to know Mother Earth. I spent a lot of time with her. Got to know Father Spirit, trying to figure out my way and how to do things and listen, be effective in my life. And the more I got caught in the dialogue of my emotions and feelings and stories and things like that, because they were real experiences, but at what cost? What is the cost when I don't shut it down, when I don't get the resolve? So whether I get the resolve or not, to me, the shortcut, the resolve that I'm talking about here, it's when I can actually just say, you know what, I don't like the way I feel. I know how to create feelings. I know how to create feelings in a heartbeat, in a nanosecond. Okay? I know how to do this because, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, have you ever gone from happiness to rage? I mean, just in a nanosecond, of course. In a nanosecond, we let outside exterior energy shift interior energy. We put these thought forms from others' energies and experiences into our head. We hear their voices sometimes, and then it repeats and repeats and repeats, and then we add one onto the other onto the other. That's like a piece of sand in a river, and over time rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And then more stick to it, and they're all different kinds. There are all kinds of different stones. And then what do they do when it becomes a big rock, okay, in a riverbed? They call it a conglomerate. A conglomerate. It's just a bunch of stuff massively put together over time. So, ancient, time-tested truths, laws that are unbreakable, unchangeable, time-tested forever. That's what I count on. Mother Earth, okay? Yeah, you don't know when there's going to be a flash flood, but you know there's going to be one, okay? So you work with her. You learn how to observe and see things, okay? And Father Spirit, well, you never know, even in your darkest hour, and who knows when one of those might show up or how many times you're going to be like, oh, dear God, help me. So I've said so many times, you know, I found myself just down on this earth, okay, just intensely down on this earth. And I'm just going to get down on this earth right now, okay? You know, when you touch this earth, I've been so I've been getting out more, but I've been doing a lot of stuff in the house, in the world, in society. I miss all those times like that, you know, but that creates feelings where it's like, oh, I missed that. But it might be true. So, Mother Earth, okay? You got to smell her. You got to know her. You got to know how to work with her. She's unchangeable, okay? But in that diversity of change, you know that's the constant. You know that the way that Mother Earth changes is constant. It's never ending. Now, yeah, you know, I don't know, they say somewhere in different writings, you know, Earth wrapped up like a scroll. I don't know. I'm right here, right now. I'm not going to get caught up in the possibilities of prophecy. I'm going to get caught up in the truths of now, and I'm going to utilize this Mother Earth power, and I'm going to utilize this Father Spirit power, and I'm going to get to know myself, and I'm going to feel the way that I want to. I like to feel empowered. I like to feel peaceful, and I don't like physical pain, and I didn't realize how used to physical pain a person can get. That's not good. You don't want to get so used to physical pain. You know what I mean? There's something, yes, that we experience in this life where we're learning how to make physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual come together in a conglomerate through time, rolling together, becoming one, me, okay? And in such a balanced way where, you know, there's nothing that can defy it. So ancient, long time tested, you know, healing. Oh, it's good for me, you know. So what is this earth and spirit medicine? Okay, you know, well, just whatever people said, hey, this will make you feel better. Here's some medicine. You know, well, the medicine comes in these beautiful plants. The medicine comes in the forms of communication with other people. Okay, the medicine comes, and some we say, you know, hey, good medicine, bad medicine, you know, but here again, I'm not trying to label. I'm just trying to say what are the immutable truths, those laws, okay? And there's boundaries in them. And what I learned a long time ago was, and I remember listening to a guy talk about this. So there's two lines, the boundary, and inside of those boundaries is an unchanging law. And, you know, so you have to operate within those boundaries, and then you get that true law. When you step out of those boundaries, it's like you begin to rely upon yourself. So today, Alan was coming over here, and he hasn't been over to this canyon for a while. So he began to rely upon himself for a minute, and then he relied upon something else. And it's like, well, what do you want to rely upon to get where you're going? Bottom line. Anyway, okay, so tell us what, you know, coming over here today.
It's been a while, so yeah. Neighborhood has changed some, so I got turned around.
Hold, the neighborhood has changed some. Come on, be more specific. What the hell's going on, is going on in this terrain around here? Is it a little change or big change?
It's a big change. And there is a lot of neighborhood growth upon here. So the terrain looked different, thanks. And I relied on technology, Google Maps, to kind of guide me here, and it wanted to take me to a different canyon. I realized that, so I turned that off and I started to just look at the mountains, and that got me here. So
what do we rely on to get where we're going in today's world? You know, GPS is fabulous, especially on all these street names that are named, you know, Mary's Land, or, you know, Jehovah Street, or, you know, or, you know, over here to Cherokee Lane, or, you know, all these names of streets where people live. And, you know, it's hard to northwest, east, and south in a way, but it's imperative. Okay, you've got to know Mother Earth. You've got to know Father Spirit. You've got to know yourself. You don't want to get lost. You don't want to get to a point where you're panicking inside of a city, in a sense, trying to find your way. I've done that, okay? I've been in the city trying to find my way with my gosh dang phone, and my younger son is like, you know, thinking he was 17, and it's not just him, but I've struggled with that. It's like I almost couldn't function, and very, very overwhelming, almost like getting lost in the wilderness, in the raw wilderness, and yet I never ever felt lost in the raw wilderness, ever. And that panic feeling of not knowing where I was and missing an exit, because that navigator voice says, exit now. And it's like, Judas Priest, it's right there. And now I think they've gotten better at this over time. This was like, you know, 15 years ago. So what is this that we really want to rely upon, and where is it to get where we're going?
Inside.
You've been doing this a while now. Now, this has nothing to do with getting here today, but this internal navigating, this internal dialoguing, this way of trusting Mother Earth, Father Spirit, trusting yourself. Trust's a big deal. It's a word, yeah, but it comes to a word that we spoke of before, of some sort of certainty, doesn't it? And are we always in certainty? Getting better at it, but so, yeah, what is it that we have inside that we're looking for, that we don't mind, that leaves us feeling all this stuff we don't need to? Well, I guess we're going to end this today. So just consider that you have a lot to work with. And sometimes if you don't know how to just carve out a little place, make a little fire, only use a little bit of wood, what do you have? And how do you go about utilizing it? And are you using what you have to get the results you want? What do you even know what your inventory is, in other words? Okay, wood, tinder, whatever, okay, inside I've got, some skill sets. If somebody can be really good at getting addicted to drugs, and somehow, whether it's stealing or whatever, they'll get that money. They'll get that money to get that drug, guaranteed, okay? You'll do whatever it takes. So if you switch that and say, well, I'm just going to turn that into being the best salesman there ever was. I'm just going to flip that and turn it into legalities. I'm going to turn it into power processes. See, we already have the skill sets. We're already working around the language of I am. So, really, let's just say that we're going to kind of pronounce into more about the language of I am and how that works in your benefit to go from rage, unhappiness, sadness, whatever it is. And, I'm not trying to take away from feelings that you have, like mourning or things like that, but how do we keep moving through it effectively without being taken down or losing our place or anything? And it's okay, to have a day or so when you feel a little bit more, and especially around those losses of loved ones. Those really create some interesting impulses within the body and how we learn to work around that. So in the future of these podcasts, we'll be speaking a lot about grieving and how does grief have an influence, and for how long, and perhaps why. And is it possible that it's because we're trying to connect to that divine intelligence, and so we can speak to our loved ones, and we can still carry on conversation, or we can tell them we love them, or things like that? And if so, then let's learn how to attach ourselves to divine intelligence sooner, so that when those situations come up, we already know what to do. So, all right, that's it. We're going to put this fire out, make this look like we never been here before, and we're going to keep trying to live our lives that way, this kind of leave no trace, but be very, very effective. So have a great day. Thank you. Anything else?
No.
All right. See you next time.